Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting video. Today I stole Frantic Maddie's carrier. Just kidding, I really didn't. This is just clickbait. But yeah, this is Frantic Maddie's carrier, and it's an older version. If you haven't been watching him build this thing, you should go ahead and use the link in the description or the video at the top right to go check it out. But I was just using it for clickbait because we were checking it out the other day on a live stream. I think the workbench, yes, the Friday workbench, we checked it out. So it's coming along like really nicely, and the frame rate is great. So looking forward to playing with this when it's done. I think he's working on planes right now. But what this video is really about is my new relaxation build, a Fletcher Class Destroyer. So I've been working on this quietly at night. Kind of gives me a break from Stormy awards and worrying about anything. It's just kind of, you know, building something from the inside out, from the outside in. Whatever. I'm just building everything on it. Of course, this was based off a 3D import, but as always, you can see that, well, you don't see all of the pink, but like 90% of this, 99% of this, 90%, let's say 90% of this is rebuilt. So even though I import 3D objects, they're rebuilt from the ground up to like fix everything. But I do have it at the right size and things are in the right place. So that's why I use 3D import. So anyways, let's just take a look at some of the things I've been working on, and maybe I'll do like little updates on this thing as well. I mean, it's like the Enterprise. Will it ever be finished? Who knows? But it's nice to relax and build. So the one thing I want to show you right now is the hull. So we're in the Stormworks editor, and as you can see, this is the hull. The pink is where I've added new blocks or whatever, but that's mostly just because I remove a lot of blocks that are next to each other, and that's just kind of my process. But this is the hull as it's imported as a 3D object, and you'll see, if you come up close, it uses the wedges and the inverted pyramids to try to smooth out the hull. So I never stay with this hull. This is just kind of like where you start. So in the past, I've done a test with this using a JSI build. I will link to that video on the top right, which compares kind of like hull design and impact on FPS. But I'm just going to show you this hull and the impact on FPS by changing it up. So this is the hull as imported, and then let me load a different version. And this is the new hull, which uses what I call slices, I think. I don't know, people call them sliced holes or whatever. And you know, it looks like this. You can see the hull is very much just kind of slices upon slices to build out the hull. And I know other people, like a lot of people in JSI, use the very smooth hull. And interestingly enough, I haven't seen too much of a big difference between this hull and the smooth hull FPS. Like you would think, like if you're making things using the big wedges and stuff like that, and it's all one piece, that your frame rate would be better. But in my test, it didn't seem to really make a difference. So overall, it's either the slice hole or the smooth hole is going to give you your best FPS, but little tiny wedges and inverted pyramids, not so great. But let me go ahead and show you the test results. All right, so first off, I'm going to spawn the original kind of like 3D imported hole. Again, this has been cleaned up on the inside, so a lot of the blocks have been removed that are inside, and the structure's being kind of prepared for having internal stuff. But the hull itself is what it was imported. So what you do, or the best way I have found to test how your build is coming along, is to go into the mission editor and spawn at least 6 of them. Like 4 is pretty good too. But to see the big differences on each one you spawn and how it impacts the frame rate of the game, 6 is a nice number. So if we go to F1, all right, so what we see is we have a FPS performance, and that's how fast the game is running, which is 30 frames per second. So overall, the game is being rendered, the world is being rendered at 30 frames per second, okay? So there's 6 of those, and that's going to impact the frame rate. So if I reduce those, of course, the frame rate would go up, and things would be better. But if we look at the logic and the physics FPS, you'll see it's at 48 FPS for 6 of these destroyers being spawned in the world. So it's doing pretty good, even better than the performance of the frame rate. Which is interesting because last night when I was testing, the frame rate was about 50 or 60, and today I'm getting a lot less. So I'm not sure what changed, but let's go ahead and load up the newer hole. Alright, so there is the new hole, which is a sliced hole, not a smooth hole. And let's see what the frame rate is. Here's the new hole. The performance is 2 frames faster on the overall game performance, 3D performance. So Stormworks is running at 32 FPS. And then the logic and the physics are running at 62 and 62. So my bottleneck is not the physics right now, but the actual 3D objects that are being spawned into the world. So I'm not positive how Stormworks converts the edited XML blocks into a mesh into the world, but when it does, they appear not to be that optimized. So you have 3 things running against you in the game, right? You have logic, you have FPS, world rendering, and physics FPS, which is how the objects are reacting in the world. If they're being hit, if they're bouncing around, flying, floating, whatever it is, that is going to be what affects your overall gameplay. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and spawn one now. Anytime now. There it goes. And let's just hop over there and check it out. Alright, so as you can see, the frame rate of the course is wonderful. Look at that. Not even a slowdown at all. We can look at this. I'm probably running in 60 frames per second. Let me turn the VSync off real quick. Wait, let's go ahead and turn everything up. High, ultra, 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 ultra. We can do bloom. We'll do motion blur. And I think FXAA is the better one. And let's turn off VSync. VSync will limit you to 60 frames per second, which I heard a rumor if you're playing multiplayer, you want to turn on VSync so that everyone playing multiplayer is running at 60 frames per second, and supposedly that helps keep you in sync just a little bit better. Don't know if it's true, but we're going to try it if we ever do a sub hunt again. So let's hit save. Let's go ahead and check out our frame rate. So spawning 1 destroyer with 1 pivot for the rudder so far, I'm getting 108 frames per second, and this is running on an NVIDIA 2080 and an AMD 3900X. So that gives you an idea of what I'm running. Of course, if you have a lesser video card, you're probably going to struggle more with the frame rate. But as long as I'm going over 60 frames per second, that probably means, I'm guessing, a mid-range video card should be getting at least 60 frames per second. And of course, on the right side, because we're only running one of these, we're getting 62 frames per second on logic, 62 frames on physics. Of course, what's going to happen is if I start putting pivots on these guns, if I make these guns functional, my frame rate, my physics frame rate is going to drop drastically. And that's a big problem with Stormworks. I would usually cut myself off with the image of play the game, don't complain. But I really want to let you know that this is a problem. This is a problem that they haven't addressed, and they're not going to address in the next DLC. They're just adding new stuff. But the problem with pivots and sub-bodies and how they are calculated is a big problem. And as you can see, it doesn't matter if the ship is this big, or, let me get one awesome one out here, or if it's an awesome build like this one here by Eggnog, which you see on the left side. It doesn't matter how small or big you build your vehicles. If you start adding sub-bodies, pivots, with any load on them, the game is going to suffer. And it's something that really needs to be addressed. I mean, I've submitted a bug report. It was closed. But in my opinion, as soon as they added weapons DLC and people were going to start building weapons platforms that are placed on ships or planes or whatever, helicopters, that use pivots, the moment they did that, they've kind of put themselves in the spotlight that they have to fix how pivots handle weight on them and how the physics are calculated. Because the weapons DLC is pretty pointless. It is. I know some of you are getting some enjoyment out of it, and I have too. But if you look at overall the game experience when it comes to weapons DLC and performance of any vehicles that have pivots, it brings the game down, and it kills the potential of being like not a perfect game, but a damn optimized, awesome experience game that you want to play, that you want to tell your friends about, that you want to, to load up and have a good time with. But, with the pivots and the sub-body performance, the game suffers. So, anyways, I'm just going to keep ranting about that forever and ever until Deltars actually addresses it, or they build a new game that addresses it, or perhaps another developer comes along and makes a game that has all these wonderful features in the world and is worth our time to explore. Anyways, that's it for today. I'm just going to go ahead and let you know that I am working on this ship. And of course, the Stormy Awards are coming to a conclusion. This is last week to vote in the Discord for builds. No more nominations are being accepted, but you can go vote for your favorite builds. Anyways, that's it for today. I think I've ranted enough about pivots and deltars and geometa. So yeah. So that's it for today. Don't forget to hit the bell so it goes ding dong when I upload a video. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And make sure you let Deltars and Geometa know that there is a problem with their game. You know, go to the, I would say go to the Stormworks official, but I think you might get banned. But maybe, you know, report bugs. Pivots suck, sub buddies suck. Fix your game. All right. See you next time.